My name is Mark Bennett and I'm from iSchool in Zambia.
Mark, what is iSchool?
iSchool is an attempt to introduce modern blended e-learning in the African context and to try and, whilst we're doing that, change the way that learning is done in schools.
And what are the key changes that you're trying to introduce in terms of teaching?
So we're trying to get teachers to move away from the chalkboard, to move away from their traditional styles of rote learning, memorised learning, and to introduce more modern, interactive, inquiry-based learning where the children are thinking for themselves, doing open questioning and doing problem solving, and are coming out of school able to change the way that their lives might otherwise have led.
And you're doing this with a tablet. Show me how this works.
Yes, so the tablet, the low-cost tablet that's arrived in the last few years, we think is going to make a major impact upon many things in Africa, but particularly on education. So what we can provide on this device, where everything is preloaded, you don't need internet connectivity, you don't need anything else, lasts a full school day on its battery. Yes. Yeah. So what we provide for the teachers is for every single lesson, which is about 5,000 lessons across a primary school career, very detailed lesson plan for the teacher, so to help them plan for the resources they're going to need, to help them shape the open questions for the children, to break into activity groups, within which activity groups the children will be doing creative writing tasks, will be doing reinforcement of learning, and will themselves then be using the tablets. And then the teacher can also see what the children will be doing on their tablets. And so we've created for the children then multimedia e-learning content that's illustrated in the African context, that's translated into local language, and that's meaningful for children wherever they are, and then they have their own tablet.
And how much does this tablet cost?
So we're putting this tablet out to market along with all of the preloaded learning content, along with support for the life of the device, along with curriculum updates, along with reading schemes and reference material and many other things that are on it, for in the order of $200.
And you've got three kinds of tablets, haven't you? You've got one for the pupils, one for the teachers.
Yes, and one for home use, so a simplified one for students in school, which we assume are then shared between a number of students in a day, which they can change the language of, which they can move between lessons, and which help them to guide them to specific work that they're going to be doing today, because it's relatively prescriptive order, so that it's easy for the teachers to follow. And then we've got a third tablet, which is for the home market, so it can remember profiles for a number of different children, and it can provide them with stories. It provides them with homework to do that day, and then that, along with the school tablets as well, has got a function for parents and community members, and the key for that is that they can also then do adult numeracy, adult literacy. There's something there for brothers and sisters, to introduce them to their language, to other people's language, to English, and there's life skills, so we've got farming, we've got health, we've got financial literacy and so on, and methods to help people to come back to school if they left early and finish their primary education.
And how many of those individual tablets have you sold in Zambia? So
we've sold about 10,000 of those individual tablets so far. The next batch is on its way from China, and the rest we've sold out to the school market.
And what are your future expansion plans?
So within Zambia, we're obviously hoping to get on a much wider scope of schools, both the private schools, the community schools, of which there are a lot now that are owned by village communities locally.
And currently how many schools in Zambia are
So at the moment we're in about 100 schools.
Out of about?
Out of about 10,000 schools altogether.
And those are all primary schools, aren't they?
So those are all primary schools, yes. We're only dealing at primary level at this point. And we're trying, of course, to get into the government system, and we're very keen to be working more closely with government even than we are now, as well as we've set up a microfinance institute to be able to lend to community schools and those others who need to be able to pay over a longer period of time at lower rates of finance. And then wider afield, we're now looking at getting into other countries in the region. mapping to their curricula, where they're very similar to the Zambian one.
And you're doing some pilots in other countries?
We are, yes. So we started piloting in Lesotho, for example. We're working with people in Nigeria, we're working with people in Kenya and Uganda and so on. We're trying to get pilots going in those places. We're doing a pilot in Tanzania at the moment, before we then go into full operation in those countries.
And you've been doing monitoring and evaluation on the impact of these of this work. What has been the results of that, M&E?
So it's very positive. So on the quantitative side, we're seeing improvements in numeracy, in literacy, and particularly we're putting a lot of effort into measuring critical thinking skills, because we want to see that people are better learning how to learn, better learning how to solve problems and so on. And then there's the more qualitative stuff, like we've seen absenteeism in schools pretty much disappear amongst students. We're seeing children come into school when they were sick and so on, which is a very big change from before. And also amongst teachers, we're seeing more children applying to the schools. We're seeing children coming back into school when they'd left before. We're seeing parents coming into school with their children to see what the whole thing's about. So there are other noticeable effects.
And in the future, you're going to be able to put this onto low-end smartphones?
Yes, right. So we're now looking, as Africa is beginning to start to buy not the $500 phone, but the $50 phone, and those sorts of things are coming down. We're in the Android platform area, so we can equally offer the same thing on low-cost smartphone devices. Works equally well, and we think it's going to be, there is going to be a huge change. There is going to be a huge change in Africa when that comes, and where it can read to them. You don't need to be so literate to do that, and it will also deliver you the farming information. It will also deliver you the health information and other things that we're providing along with it for the wider community.